Hello everyone, welcome to my first online video. It's going to be a loose introduction to who I am, what I do, and my take on what I do. Tattooing to me is something very special that totally changed and defined my entire life as well as my skin. As far as I'm concerned, it is a truly sacred form of art, and as far as I've experienced, it's one of, if not the most intense meditation practices and transformational processes available to the human. It can be acquired, and rightly so, for purely aesthetic purposes, but even when this is the case, it requires the full concentration, determination and strength of spirit from the participant, and it cannot be received with an absent mind. If someone is looking for more than just the aesthetic though, and decides to mentally attach some meaning or a desired intention to the design before having it tattooed, once tattooed, it will serve as a strong psychological affirmation to bring about the realization of that desired intention or the memory of the sentiment. This is because every 7 years our complete biological structure will have undergone so much change that it will no longer contain the same cells and microbiome that it does now. The cells in our bodies are constantly changing. Old ones die, new ones take their place for a period until they die, and so on. And it takes around 7 years for every cell in your body to have undergone this process. We live in a universe of perpetual change, and these bodies we are using are obviously no different, because all is one. But the tattooing, by way of intense discipline, allows you to anchor yourself within the turmoil somewhat, as once the tattoo ink is subdermal, it stays with you until the day you die. This means the tattoo ink actually becomes more you than your ever-changing physiology and mind, and so then too does the design, along with whatever intention or affirmation you may have attached to it. The idea genuinely does become a true part of you, even more so than your physical body and your mind. With the full understanding of this truth, tattooing becomes much more than just an ego trip. It can actually serve as one of the most powerful tools for self-realization available in this realm. I personally am eternally grateful for the blessings it has brought into my life. I would not be who I am without it. As far as experience in the art goes, I've been practicing since I was 17 years old, and I am completely self-taught. I've worked with, tattooed and gotten tattooed by some of the best in the industry. I've travelled and tattooed in far too many countries to list, and I've worked at and visited a vast number of tattoo conventions over the years. I tattooed my face at 21 years old as a lifetime commitment to this sacred art medium and its transformative life-changing process, and I'll happily continue to tattoo people until my hands no longer work and I finally manage to free myself from this relentless human condition. Obviously all art's sacred, but with the tattooing, other than me doing the tattoo, the process that somebody has to go through to get it is intense and requires like a serious level of discipline and concentration, and I'd go as far as saying it was one of the most intense forms of meditation, and probably one of the most ancient forms of meditation there is, because there's nothing quite like tattooing to bring you into the present moment when someone's dragging a needle on your skin. As much as you're trying to be absent-minded or be somewhere else, the pain, the sensation of what the tattoo is pulls you back into that present moment. I've had people that bring books in, phones, and they're trying to sidetrack themselves with distraction, and in the end they have to put it down and be there. And that's what meditation is. The mind's trying to distract you and take you off into all sorts of fucking tangents. And then you're trying to bring yourself into the present moment, and the tattooing inadvertently automatically does that to you. And then for you to be able to deal with that requires you observing the sensation and not reacting to it, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the essence of meditation. If a client wants to use numbing cream, I'll try and talk them out of it, because they think they're kind of taking away the magic of the tattoo a little bit, because you're not fully being present with the sensation, you're kind of faking it. And then the mark that you wear after that is kind of fake, because people think you've gone through this process to acquire this mark, and really you fucking numbed it, which does something to you subconsciously that I don't think is as beneficial as if you didn't use it. But if you're not a tattooist, you're not going to do it to people. I can get my head around that being more justifiable. I actually get more of a kick out of doing my own personal illustrations with a bit of geometry, because I feel like it's technically more of a challenge and more interesting than just layering patterns next to each other. But aesthetically and as a good tattoo, I think sometimes the geometric stuff works better on its own. Depends on what people want and what they're interested in doing. But yeah, if someone wants an illustration, I'd get them to send me a few references beforehand, and would probably get the illustration roughly sketched up before we start the session. When it comes to the geometric stuff, I know enough about it to be able to panel an arm and sort an arm in the moment. I think when you overthink too much, the design can become contrived and lose that sort of like edge. If someone comes in, they've got 4 or 5 loose reference images of things that they're kind of into, that gives me an idea of what's in their head and the direction they want to go with, and then from there, in the moment, I'll start working out. I'll draw bits on them. They can tell me if they like it, they don't like it, maybe change this, bit more curve, bit more angular, whatever. And between me and the client, we go through the process of the tattoo becoming what it wants to be. If you can be open and trust the process and give yourself up to the process, you can come out with something really special. Obviously, people really struggle with that. They've got this set thing they've seen on Instagram that they want to have done, and after things that people bring in are fucking dog shit. Zed Lahed, I think, if I'm being truthfully honest. Zed is the godfather of dot work. He is the dot father. And obviously Thomas was working with him at the time, and between the two of them they sort of pioneered kind of what it is today, I think. And then I think a lot of, I mean, Zed actually gave me his pattern folder. Do you know what I mean? So I can't, he literally probably, well, he started me off with it really. I suppose I was having to go anything. I'd do portraits, colour work, fucking anything. And it's just turned itself now. I still will do anything. If someone wants a portrait, I can do it, I'll do it nice. But I get more of a kick if I've drawn something myself, that my own illustration, and then I can splice the geometry into it, because I feel you don't create the geometry. The geometry is the fundamental makeup of our reality, and you just recognise the geometry. And once you recognise it, you can take it and you can manipulate it and you can play with it. You don't necessarily create the geometry. Whereas the illustration, you start with a blank piece of paper or screen and then just produce. You make something. You know what I mean? It comes from you, out of your hands onto a paper, and for me it feels that that's more, it holds more value to me in my mind. Feeling that you have to deliver what the client demands was a big head fuck in the beginning, because I was just thankful that somebody would allow me to tattoo them, and then I felt that I had to then do that thing that they wanted the way they wanted it. And as years went by, I started to recognise that the customer actually literally knows fuck all, and they are paying you for your expertise in this field that you've practiced. Conventions was something initially that I really wanted to do and was really excited about doing, and then had this, same as tattoo magazines, kind of, is the word convoluted or deluded, probably deluded idea of what they were and weren't, and thought that it was your skill and what you could do that got you to the top, and that it was just the people that were at the top and that were in the magazines were the best going, and it was this thing. And then in a short period of doing a couple, I kind of clocked that, hang on, the double spread in Skin Deep is the cunt that paid for it. Like that's not, they didn't just give that to them because they were great artists. Like, then people fucking paid top whack for that. The people in the competition side of things, again, like, they're all mates. So I clocked quite quickly that, hang on, this is a bit bullshitty. And then with my sort of young mind, just threw the baby out with the bathwater and just thought, it's all bollocks, fuck it, I don't want to fucking do them anymore, fuck that, blah blah blah. And then once I set this place up, I recognised that they're a really good platform for meeting other artists, advertising. Like, they're giving you a service, they're providing you with a service or a platform where you can, if you want to pay them correctly, put yourself forward
Obviously you still do require a decent portfolio. In a subjective experience, there's no point for competition. It doesn't work, does it? Because I think that's good, but you think that's bad. And who the fuck's right and who's wrong? It's completely subjective. So the idea of there being an art competition is just some bullshit. If you just started tattooing, or if you're looking to get into tattooing, find someone that can give you some information, which I can. And once you get the information, put it into practice, and put it into practice relentlessly to a point where you can set the fucking thing up. Like, you know how to set a machine up now. Do you know what I mean? You gain the knowledge and the information of what you require. Then you gain the knowledge of how to use that which you required. And then once you've got it down to the point where you know that's there, you know how to wrap it, you know how the needle goes in, okay, cool. Now, probably on some practice skin, which you can get these days, we never had that back in the day, you can use an orange or a melon or like a bit of fruit skin, or you can just buy some of this practice skin. Do that until you get your head around holding the machine, how it functions, depths, different things. But these oranges, grapefruits and practice skin are not going to give you anywhere, I suppose slightly near, but nothing quite like the real thing. So I think then once you've got your head around how to hold a machine and what to do, you tattoo your own leg. And then once you've got to a point where you can show somebody the thing on your leg that's tidy enough that they're then willing to have you do it, you do it to them for free. And then once you've done them for free to a point where somebody else then actually wants it, then you charge them for your equipment. And then once you've done a few of those to the point where now like you're comfortable doing that and people are genuinely asking you for that, you can slowly then start to increase the amount that you want to cover your equipment and your time until you get to a point where your skill level is good enough that then people are now just going to throw money at you to get the thing done by you because you can do it better than anyone else. You got to be willing to take a little bit of a hit. It's going to cost you a bit of money, it's going to take a bit of time, as does anything. Now, if you want to get into this stuff, the photography and different things, like you need to buy some equipment which is expensive and you need to then learn how to do it. The tuition for learning how to do that costs you something, but once you've got that information, you're done, you're set for life. Do you know what I mean? You can now charge £100 an hour for your time doing this thing that you know how to do, that you've practiced more than anybody else. Practice makes perfect. Life is practice. And obviously if you're at the very, very beginning, set the machine up, strip it down. Set the fucking thing up again, strip it down. Do it until you're sick to death, fed up of it, until it's patterned in. Like you know how to do that now. If you pull a line with something, it doesn't do what you want it to do, don't hesitate, just change the needle. Even after a while of using a needle, like some of the grease of the skin or a skin flake or something gets in it, or you tap the side of a paper cup or something happens which changes the way the needle functions, and I think people just kind of then just pretend it hasn't happened and carry on through it. Whereas if you just take the needle out, give it some alcohol, get the grease out, then try again, if it carries on doing the same, just throw it away. Just change the needle. It's a fucking pound. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a really good bit of advice. The major tip with black work is don't keep fucking loading up the same ink cup with the black ink, because the plasma from the tattoo dilutes the ink. So every time you top it up, that little bit in the bottom that's left is more diluted each time, and then by the end of the fucking session or a few hours in, you're shading them, you ain't blacking them. Do you know what I mean? So after every couple of fills, chuck it out, top it up. You can't be scattered minded. You can't like start here and then I'll go there and then I'll do that, because you're just fucking making trauma and you're damaging the skin. You've got to start at the bottom and work up. That way you don't rub your carbon off and you're here, the process is this, and that's why it becomes a meditation practice for the artist as well as the tattooee or the participant, because you got to be with it. You know what I mean? Like with your art, if you're doing a painting or you're doing something, a drawing or a sketch, your mind wanders, you leave it for a minute, you look at your face. With this, you've got a client there that's paying you for their time, you're in it, and you have to be fucking fully in it. You can't be half-arsing it. Do you know what I mean? You've really got to just fucking focus and get it done, and just nothing else matters now. You're in doing that thing until the end of the day. Quantity and quality are two sides of a spectrum that if you do a lot of quantity, the quality can come down. If you're spending time on the quality, the quantity can come down. So you're trying to find this balance where by the end of a session, especially in the early days, at the first session or two, that client's going to leave and walk home with your unfinished artwork. So if we do a bit of painting there, the painting looks like a bag of shit, it's irrelevant, no one else is going to look at it until you've finally built the layers up enough for it to be proper. But these cunts leave and then show all their mates the thing you've done, and then it's up for scrutiny before it's even finished. So you're trying to get a level of quality that is acceptable to your general idiot, but then a level of quantity that the client feels happy to have paid for in the day. And then you're trying to explain to them that, okay, look, we've got this done, we've smashed out this amount of work, but that ain't where it's going to be at. I've smashed that out to cover this amount of space, so you're happy with what you've got when you leave, quantitatively, but that doesn't mean that it's at the quality it needs to be at. But yeah, I don't know, that's just something, one of the worst things about tattooing, I suppose, is that somebody else takes your unfinished artwork and judges it before you're allowed to actually complete it. So if people want to contact me, they can get hold of me on my Instagram page, which is at impermanence_tatu, but tattoo is spelled T-A-T-U, not double T-double-O. Also, my email address is jo3munro3@me.com, and that's for tattoo work and or one-to-one private tutorials.